The Hidden Power of Being Alone, Carl Jung's Wisdom for the Lonely Soul opening. Calm, reflective tone with soft background music. Have you ever felt an overwhelming sense of loneliness? Not the kind that comes from being without people, but a deep, aching solitude that wraps around your very soul? If so, you're not alone. And according to the legendary psychologist Carl Jung, this profound experience holds the key to your greatest transformation. Today, we're going to explore Jung's revolutionary insights into loneliness, solitude, and the hidden power that emerges when you embrace the parts of yourself you've spent your whole life running from. By the end of this video, you'll not only see loneliness differently, you'll understand how it can become the gateway to your true self. But before we begin, if you find value in deep psychological explorations like this, please consider subscribing to the channel. Your support helps us continue to create content that nourishes the mind and soul. First transition, gentle music fade in. Part 1, the loneliness that frightens the ego. Carl Jung believed that loneliness is not simply a lack of social contact. It is, in his words, the experience of being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself, or of holding certain views which others find inadmissible. In other words, real loneliness arises when you feel invisible, misunderstood, disconnected not just from others but from your own soul. According to Jung, the human psyche contains both a conscious self, the ego, and a vast unconscious realm, filled with forgotten dreams, rejected emotions, and the darker aspects of our nature. Most people spend their entire lives clinging to their ego identity, terrified of what lies beneath. And yet, Jung discovered something extraordinary. The more we run from our loneliness, the more power it has over us. Because in truth, loneliness is the call of the soul urging us to turn inward. Pause, gentle music swell. Jung wrote, loneliness does not come from having no people about one, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important. The real question is not, how can I stop being lonely? The real question is, what part of myself have I abandoned that makes me feel this alone? Second transition, soft yet curious tone. Part 2. The shadow in solitude. Jung's concept of the shadow is central to understanding the hidden power of being alone. The shadow represents all the parts of ourselves we've disowned: our anger, our envy, our vulnerability, our authentic needs. These are the aspects we were taught to hide to be accepted by family, society, or even by ourselves. Loneliness often emerges when the gap between the ego and the shadow becomes unbearable. You start to feel fragmented, as if something essential is missing. You observe that when people finally face their solitude without distraction, the shadow rises. It can feel like depression, fear, or an existential crisis. But according to Jung, this is not the end, it's the beginning of healing. He said, knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. In solitude, we meet ourselves as we truly are. The shadow ceases to be an enemy and becomes a guide. Third transition, uplifting but introspective tone. Part 3, individuation, the path to wholeness. Jung called the process of facing the shadow and integrating it into consciousness individuation. This, he believed, is the true goal of life, not happiness, not success, but wholeness. Individuation requires solitude. It requires courage. It requires the willingness to sit with discomfort without immediately escaping into distractions, relationships, or busyness. Jung warned that most people fear this process because it dismantles the ego, the false masks we wear. The personas begin to fall away. But as this happens, something miraculous takes place: the emergence of the self. The self, according to Jung, is the totality of who you are, your conscious mind, your unconscious depths, your light, your shadow, your woundedness, and your wisdom. To meet the self is to become whole, and wholeness, Jung insisted, is the only real cure for the loneliness of the human soul. Fourth transition, soft but empowering music. Part 4, the hidden gifts of solitude. So what does this mean for you? Sitting with your own loneliness, Jung would say, don't run, don't numb, don't distract. Instead, allow solitude to become your teacher. Let it strip away the inessential until only the authentic remains. Because within loneliness lies the gift of self-reflection, the birth of creativity, the clarity to see what truly matters. Jung famously said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." That privilege often begins in the quiet hours when no one is watching, when you're alone with yourself, and when you finally stop fighting it. Pause, reflective breath in that space. You meet not just your fears, but your true face. Fifth transition, calm, steady tone inviting reflection. Part 5, practical steps to embrace the power of solitude. Jung's teachings are profound, but they're also practical. If you're struggling with loneliness, here are 3 steps inspired by Jung to begin transforming solitude into strength. Face the shadow. Journal your deepest fears, anger, or sadness. Give voice to what you usually suppress. Withdraw the persona. Notice when you're wearing masks to please others. Practice authenticity even when it feels vulnerable. Develop inner dialogue instead of seeking external validation. Cultivate conversations with your own soul. Meditate, reflect, and ask, who am I beneath the roles I play? These small, consistent steps shift you from being a passive victim of loneliness to an active participant in your own psychological growth. Final transition, gentle closing music. Part 6, the return to self. Carl Jung's greatest insight was that the journey inward, the descent into solitude, the confrontation with the shadow is not a curse. It is the heroic path of every human being who seeks wholeness. You don't escape loneliness by filling your life with noise. You transcend it by making peace with yourself. And when you do, something extraordinary happens. You become free. Free from the need to be understood by everyone. Free from the fear of rejection. Free from the endless chase for external approval. You become whole. And in that wholeness, as Jung would say, you no longer fear the darkness because you have become the light. Thank you for walking this path with me today. If you found value in this reflection, please subscribe, share this video, and remember, your solitude is not your enemy. It is the doorway to the person you were always meant to be.